Hello friends, and welcome to Skipping the Mouse with your host, me, Rick Roll. Alright, it's the last day of my long weekend, going back to work, starting tomorrow, and I think for today's project, I've got one more plant in the front yard that I gotta replace. This is another one of those plants that died in a big freeze this year. And this one's gonna be a little bit more of a challenge because it was a little larger of a plant, so I'm gonna really have to dig this one out. And so I'm kind of starting early today because it's going to be another scorcher today, and I want to get it done as early as possible while it's still somewhat cool. The cicadas are out in force today. These are the two plants here that I'm going to replace, and basically I want to cut them both out, and I think I'm going to just try and replace them with one thing that'll get kind of big. So like I said, these are in here pretty well, so it's going to take a little while to dig those out. The other two came out pretty easily, but apparently these have been here for a while, so gotta get a shovel and let's start digging. So in addition to my shovel and my 6-foot digger bar, which I think will be required to help get this thing out of the ground, I also figure I'm going to be cutting some roots out of here. So I pulled out my reciprocating saw too, because I know I'm not going to get all of this out of here. I just want to get the bulk of it out of here so that we can put new plants in here, and they'll have a chance of surviving here. And basically, so this thing doesn't come back if there is any part of it that's still alive. Although it's been 6 months and nothing's going on right now, so I don't think it is alive. Alright, a little bit of digging, and I got the first one out. Now the first one is the larger of the two, so hopefully that's good news, and the other one will come out even easier. I did have to dig into it a little bit and cut a few of the roots off, but it came out easier than I thought, considering the fact that at the beginning there I was like kicking that and I couldn't even get it to move. So apparently that 6-foot long digger bar is a good way to do it. You get it in there right along the edge and begin pulling on it. And wise man once said, give me a long enough a lever, I can move the world. Well, I had a long enough lever and I was able to uproot a plant. So story checks out. Alright, that one came out pretty easy. It took about half the time as the other one. So got them both out of the ground. I'm going to kind of level everything out. This plant here is going to stay. This one's going to stay. But all these little green sprigs and stuff here, that's all going to pull out, because this is all going to be, this whole area now is just going to be one big plant that I kind of want to plant right there. So just kind of get everything smoothed out and go from there. Alright, so I got everything out of here, got this area pretty much cleaned up, and I think it's time to run over and find a plant. Now, truth is, I kind of went to Home Depot and to Lowe's yesterday trying to find something for this area, because I kind of figured I was going to do something here today, but I didn't really find anything that kind of caught my attention. So there's a nursery kind of in the area that I've visited a few times, and I think I'm going to run over there and see what they have. I also want to kind of buy a couple of bags of soil, because I want to bring up the soil level a little bit in this area, kind of fill it all in. I'm kind of trying to do that in this area because the soil is kind of settled over the years, and when you let it settle like that, it tends to puddle when it rains, and I don't want that to happen. So now's a good time, when I got it all cleared out, to kind of bring up the soil level. But basically I want to find just one big plant that I'm probably going to put like right here, kind of in the center of this area here, and hopefully it'll get big and just kind of fill in the whole area. So that's what I'm going to look for. I'm going to look for something that's got the potential to get big, and also something that's going to deal well in this light environment, because this is sort of under the pecan trees, but there's kind of a big gap in where the trees are in the afternoon, from about noon on, you start getting some direct sunlight in this area. So it's going to have to do well in part sunlight, part shade. So that's kind of our parameters here that we're looking for. Something that's going to get big, something that's going to do well in this area. So let's run over to the nursery. Alright, so I think I've decided on this. This is called a wax leaf ligustrum. And this thing's supposed to get to 6 to 8 feet tall, have white flowers. It'll bloom in the spring, and little blackberries, which apparently are very attractive to the birds. So I think this is the perfect thing for it. I'm gonna get one of these and then about 4 bags of soil. Alright, so we're back from the gardening shop. This is the plant I got. And this is basically where it's going to go. And of course I picked up a couple of bags of soil because we're going to kind of raise the level in here a little bit. I may need to go back at some point and get a few more, but I thought 4 would be a good place to start. This is the same soil that I used in other parts of the yard. So eventually I kind of want to just bring all the level up a bit. And since I got this area all cleared out, it seemed like a good place to go. So let's start by getting this baby in the ground. And once again, that means digging a hole that's about twice the size of the pot that the plant is in, because then we're going to fill it up with some mulch, some of our new soil here, and then bury it up and, like I said, raise the level everywhere else. Alright, so I got the hole dug. As I've mentioned before, one of the things that kind of sucks about the area here is that there's a fairly thick layer of limestone just under the ground, so I had to kind of punch through that a little bit, but ultimately that will help the plant too. By punching through it, it'll allow the roots to go down beneath that, so hopefully that'll enable this thing to do better in here by allowing a little bit better drainage and also a little bit better access to the soil underneath. So I'm going to fill this in a little bit with some of the new planting soil I brought in here, and then we'll put it in the ground and raise up the dirt level. Alright, that's all in. Honestly, I thought I was going to need more soil, but I think it's just about right. We basically brought the soil up to, well, closer up to the top of this thing. It was down to the ground level here on both sides, so this thing was just basically standing there, and there wasn't anything on either side of it to hold it up except for these little spikes in the ground. So this will settle a little bit, and that'll be fine, but the soil's nice and healthy now. The plant's in the ground. All I got to do now is give it a real nice drink, and we're going to do that right now. And this should be good. A couple years from now, this thing should be about 8 feet tall and kind of fill in this whole area. And like I said, it's got some pretty white flowers that come in the spring and some blackberries that come later on that apparently are very attractive to the birds, and that's always good too. I always like to do something like that, and it adds a little bit of variety in the yard. You know, I've told you before, I like having different things going on in the yard, not just 1 or 2 plants that all look the same. So adding a little variety, having some different things happening at different times of the year, that's sort of what I'm looking for. So let's give it a drink, and I think we're done. Okay, we've given this thing a good little drink, and I think it's on its own now. Let's see what happens. We'll give it another drink tonight when we turn on the sprinklers, and that should help a little bit also. But I think we're well on our way to having a nice plant here that will fill in this area real nicely. So let's go wander around. I want to show you a couple of the other things that have happened recently. The hydrangea had kind of a bad couple of days. It was really hot here, and so the leaves kind of took a beating, but I see all sorts of new growth under there, and it's still flowering, so I'm not really worried too much about that. This one too, but like I said, a lot of new growth going on in deep inside there, and that's doing well. This one too, you know, it looks a little ratty right now, but like I said, all sorts of new growth going on here, so that one's looking good. I really like this Asian jasmine because it's really starting to spread now. It's throwing vines out all over the place. It's going to be real nice ground cover here when that goes. And I'm looking forward to that blooming here at some point. But, you know, look at that thing. That's just going all over the place. That's going to have this whole area filled in, which is really kind of what I wanted. I wanted ground cover in here. And so this is all doing really well in here. And you recall, of course, I planted this several months ago. So the fact that it's all still alive, even though the hydrangeas, like I said, look a little ratty, they're resilient plants, I know, and they tend to bounce back really quickly. So just got to stay on top of the watering with them. And of course, these are my Texas lilacs. This is the area where they tunneled under the house when they replaced the sewer line, and so they kind of ripped the plants out of here. And I planted these in right after we put everything back together, and I thought for sure that I lost these, but these have come back with a vengeance, and they're doing real well, and so they're going to look nice here. They're getting ready to bloom, as you can see, and so that's going to be nice. And of course, these are those crepe myrtles that I planted about a week ago. They're doing well. They're liking this area here. Still doing well. I see all sorts of berries on that one, so that one's going to be blooming pretty soon. Even the bugs seem to like it a little bit. And of course, this is my yellow rose of Texas. It was given to me by one of my viewers, and it's not blooming at the moment, but it's clearly doing very well in here. I'm having to kind of pull out some of the other stuff that's growing in here that I don't necessarily want. Weeds do very, very well in this yard too, unfortunately, but so far everything's doing real well in here. And of course, here we are in the backyard now, and this is all that stuff I did a couple months ago, and it's doing all real. In fact, I began noticing that some of this ornamental grass is starting to bloom a little, which was I was expecting would happen at some point. There's a little bit of flower action happening there, a little bit of flower action happening here, a little bit there. So this whole area is doing very well. Very happy with this. This is going to be real nice when this really grows in and gets thick. And this is something that's just near an area where I haven't done anything yet. This is the area on the other side of the patio where I was going to build this up too. And this is, I think, called a Lantana. And I thought for sure this thing had died in the big freeze too, but it definitely came back, and it's going crazy right now. So very happy with that as well. So anyway, it's kind of a hot day, and I pretty much got my outdoor work done today. So I think I'm going to take the rest of the day off, cool off in the swimming pool, and get ready for another work week. So I think that's all that I have for today. Thank you as always for watching, and I'll see you next time on Escaping the Mouse. Good night.